Thank you all for being here today. Hope everyone's had a great week. Welcome to the best view in Davos. The theme for the WEF this year is collaboration for the intelligent age. And I want to bring that conversation to this very stage with a region that is really trying to transform its economy and two private companies that are really at the forefront of people and digital infrastructure. And Sheikh Ali, with that, I want to start with you, because Qatar as a nation launched its latest development strategy recently, looking to further transform that economy, that economic transformation that we've been talking about a lot on this stage over the years, and diversifying into new sectors while remaining competitive. Could you tell us a little bit about that latest transformation strategy and what role your agency plays in it?
Well, thank you, Philippa, and very happy to be here. It's my second time at Journal House. 2 years ago was the first. And I really appreciate everyone being here and being here for this talk as well. So Qatar launched its Qatar National Vision back in 2008, very early on. And since then, I mean, we've launched a number of what we call national development strategies. These are strategies that have detailed targets, and they run towards the same overall objective, which is transforming Qatar from to a knowledge-based economy. What do we really mean by that? And I would put it in this way, is to transform the economy from one that is based on natural resources as a primary driver for growth to one that is based on human capital. You have many countries around the world that have limited natural resources but can sustain economic development and growth via their own domestic human capital. Invest Qatar is part of a wider ecosystem of special economic zones, free trade zones, and onshore platforms that seek to help the country diversify. We do that primarily via the promotion and facilitation of foreign direct investment. We do that via a number of different functions, which includes the promotion of Qatar as an investment destination. We have a very strong facilitation role where we help businesses discover opportunities, connect them to the local ecosystem of state-owned enterprises or agencies. And as well as we have a strong research and policy advocacy role where we work with our investors, understand any regulatory or policy changes that needs to be made and advocate on their behalf to the public sector to make these changes happen. We also have a role in driving incentives across the state.
Okay, great. Casper, let me turn to you because you are a MENA expert. You wrote the very book, you speak Arabic, you wrote the book on smart cities, digital nations. So you have a long history on doing this very thing that Sheikh Ali is talking about. What defines the successful region of the future? How do you get this right?
Well, I think that knowing what you want to achieve is very important at the very beginning. And I think then investing long term with a goal in mind is the second thing. I think when we look at the region, when we look also at especially China, and we look at the special economic zones that started there with a very long-term goal in mind, then we look at the infrastructure that was built over time with a long-term goal in mind, not building for today, but building for 10, 15 years from now. I mean, Qatar is an example of that. There are other examples in the region. I think it's this combination of really knowing where you want to go and then just sticking to it, right? And that then extends to infrastructure per se, right? That extends, of course, to digital infrastructure,
right.
Like building the digital infrastructure for the world of tomorrow, which is going to be driven by a lot by AI, I think this long-term planning is key.
Okay.
Right? And that's what the region has done. There are some players who have been exceptionally successful, right? There are others who have not, and we see different examples, right? And we see that also in Asia, yeah.
Okay. And I want to get onto that long-term planning in a second, but Christophe, Sheikh Ali mentioned people capital and that this is really based on attracting people to the region. You at Adecco obviously have an awful lot of data on what's happening in workforce trends around the world. and the sort of supply and demand trends and dynamics. What can you tell us from a people perspective about how you get this right? How do you attract the people? What's going on at a more macro level in that sort of workforce supply and demand?
I mean, I will follow the same direction as Caspar. I mean, if you have a long-term view, you know where you want to build on your industries, on your expertise. You can define how you can launch at scale a plan in order to upskill people or to migrate people or to take care about diversity of your people. And if you take Middle East as the whole region, you see that first you have a geographical position, which is in the middle of. I mean, it's like a trade hub for many companies now, and you see logistic and supply chain being very strong and looking for lots of competencies there. We know that also hospitalities, events are part also of what has been launched at scale, and I think Qatar is one of the best in class in terms of organizing that. It means also defining how to build the human capital for that. For sure, you have the IT and the healthcare. I mean, transformative industries you can find everywhere in the world, but when you know that demographic will go up, you need to prepare to go for more and more healthcare professionals. So at the end of the day, the challenge is to know exactly where you want to go, to build your human capital, to know how you will educate your local citizen, and also to understand what are the expertise you need also to relocate somewhere and to create the right and proper environment to do that. So it's like a strategic view of building, I would say, a strong economy, but also a strong footprint for the citizen.
Okay. Sheikh Ali, that sort of creating the right environment for people to arrive in Qatar and work, how are you thinking about the people perspective? Can you just drill down on that for a second for us?
Well, I think obviously one of the primary drivers to reach what we call a knowledge-based economy is twofold. So we have both the development of homegrown human capital, which is why Qatar has made a large investment in the educational infrastructure. It includes developing of indigenous homegrown universities, but also attracting foreign universities to have their campuses in Qatar, and that serves as well the wider Middle East. But aside from that, it is also the attraction and retention of talent that is very important. Especially, I mean, if you're looking at diversifying the economy, that requires the development of a domestic skills base, and that could not really be achieved without the attraction of talent. And maybe in Qatar our focus is more regional. If you look at the region, there are hundreds of thousands of engineering graduates every year, but they face a significant difficulty in achieving both their full economic potential and as well as access to capital, among other things. And in Qatar, I think we strive to create a platform where we can attract high-skilled talent from the region and enable them as well to grow, to develop their own businesses. And we see the demand. Last year in Web Summit, we launched an initiative called Startup Qatar. Part of that, it includes an investment program. And in there, we had thousands of applications of entrepreneurs who were looking either to access finance capital or looking for infrastructure or a base of operations in Qatar as well. So we got a sense of the demand, but also it's been on us to develop the right legal framework to have them not just come to Qatar to work, but to think of Qatar as a second home. And that is actually a pretty difficult task. But I think over time, Qatar has developed a very unique value proposition, both in terms of safety, connectivity, a very sound economic situation, and also stability, which the region lacks somewhat.
Okay. Let's talk about sectors, and I think this is a question for you, and Caspar, I'd like to turn to you afterwards as well. When you think about the sectors that you're building now and in the future for that longer term picture, what kind of sectors can we expect to see flourish in Qatar? Where are you really sort of drilling down, and what might that look like? And how are you differentiating those sectors as well?
Yeah. So Qatar, I mean, if you look at the National Development Strategy, and as well as announcements that was subsequent to that by different state-related entities, we're continuing investing in our traditional industries. So there's a massive investment to grow the production of LNG, as well as downstream of that, fertilizers, petrochemicals, to continue positioning Qatar in a leading role, bringing both energy and food security to many countries around the world. But aside from that, it is a development of new industries, especially advanced manufacturing, logistics, taking advantage of the positioning of Qatar. I mean, if you look at the Middle East, maybe the GCC, on a Mercator map, it looks like it's in the center of the earth, but it connects Europe, Africa, and Asia, around 8.5 trillion in GDP within 3,000 kilometers. And there is a unique proposition in developing the logistics sector, which has been the fastest growing non-hydrocarbon sector in our economy, as well as financial services. And ICT is not really a sector because it operates across sectors, technology. So we look at it as more of an enabler and how we can develop different verticals within our priority sectors and adopt the latest technologies, including AI, and building out our AI infrastructure as well.
Casper, does that mirror what you've seen in regions elsewhere? Where sort of what would you advise that's sort of like replicable and that has been successful elsewhere?
So I think that the region's geography is very competitive. You've said that. It connects a lot of industries. It connects a lot of supply chains. All these industries and supply chains need to decarbonize fast, right? We know that. The best way of doing that is leveraging digital means, right? So we see the world of IoT and the world of industry coming together. The region is also very innovative, right? As is Asia, probably more innovative and more willing to take risks on new technologies than other parts of the world. And I think this is something that differentiates it. Some states, some cities are willing to make large investments in ICT that is both directed at industry, at other sectors. And I think this is very exciting, right? So as a businessman, it's a good place to invest, frankly, because you get a lot of scale and you get a lot of other players, regional players in Asia, looking at what is happening there and copying it. Yeah.
And Christophe, as you think about attracting a workforce to this region into a highly digital infrastructure that is being built really from scratch, so you're not dealing with much of a legacy here, what are the kind of skills you're looking for? How do you make that a long-term play?
Here you need to think about infrastructure to start. I take an example. The first time we have invested in Bahrain, for example, before, long time ago, it was for education. We have built a partnership with the government in order to invest on citizens, in order to bring some capacities in terms of software, in terms of AI recently. It was not the case to start. Cybersecurity and all of this. So it's like a private-public co-investment, which was a good one in order to promote the local workforce. If I take the example you have mentioned about logistics, we are working with one of the main players in the world, defining, I would say, also this hub as an important hub for them. We had to recruit 550 people in order to start the operation. And here they are coming from 18 different countries.
Right.
Why they are joining, I would say, this place is because it has been organized in order to get housing, education, taking care about insurance. So all those components are part of a package where you have a long-term visibility. So you build infrastructure. And on one side, you invest a lot on, I would say, the local workforce. On the other one, you need to combine that sometimes with people joining the territory.
Yeah.
But the common point is long-term view.
Yeah. And are you seeing that more in the sort of workforces, the data you're looking at? Are you seeing more of a mindset where people move for the longer term?
Yes, clearly. We had some few countries where we have seen such, I would say, a decisive agenda to define what you want to build. Each time you are opportunistic in those types of investment, it's not good because people are coming back later for family reasons, for many different reasons. And you have some professional of mobility, in the workforce. When you build an infrastructure which is for the long term and you educate your children in a place, you know what? If the environment is okay, you maintain your I would say, your loyalty to the country. And that's the difference between opportunism on one side and strategic view on what you want to build.
Okay. Now, how do you think about loyalty to the country when you're bringing people in?
I think, I mean, people need to have a shared sense of vision and of, say, belonging somewhat to this country. Not necessarily in terms of, being part of the cultural identity, but at least thinking of where they are based, where they live as a home.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously there's a large part that the government should play in enabling that and making it first seamless, efficient, and as well as creating the right policies and regulations when it comes to immigration to enable that. So yeah, I think it is important.
Okay, let's talk about immigration policy since you mentioned it there a little bit. And without wanting to get hugely into the details of immigration policies, we are seeing shifts in immigration policies around the world, certainly seeing a lot of rhetoric around it. How do you think those shifts in immigration policy could benefit the Middle East region as a whole, but Qatar more specifically?
Yeah, I think generally tightening immigration policies in different regions could have a positive impact, especially when there's a competition on talent, and obviously that competition is increasing. But also we see other regions that have trends going into more closing down or at least restricting immigration somewhat. But maybe for Qatar it's a bit different because our target, say, demographic is more within the MENA region, and we see a lot of potential there. And it's not just the attraction of talent, but also creating the right incentives, upskilling programs that they can come and develop themselves in Qatar. This takes a lot of collaboration between the public sector, industry, and academia, and also we need the right initiatives, both in increasing government and private sector spending on research and development, increasing or revitalizing the venture cap ecosystem, and also working on building market access as well. And we've seen a number of initiatives that try to tackle that.
Okay. Just I want to ask both of you briefly, because I'm sure we all have children we're thinking about, careers that we're thinking about. Christophe, you're also the chair of a business school in France. How important is international expertise as one builds their career, even like from the ground up or even in later years?
It's crucial, especially talking about countries like Qatar. If you want to, I would say somewhere, we were talking about loyalty and integration, you need to have a multicultural experience. If you don't have the experience before, it can be challenging to go in a place where you don't know at all, you are not like at home, because it's different in terms of culture, in terms of environment. If you used to be mobile, to learn a lot about different cultures in your education piece, at the end of the day, it's one place where you can grow and evolve, and you can have a very strong ability to adapt yourself. And I think, talking about also migration, some countries are very strong to do that. Some others are probably not at the same level. That's why business schools should do a lot. In France, we need to do more. But if I take the example of India, for example, in India, people used to travel all over the world. And the education is done in India, and I know in Middle East you find a lot of people joining, I would say, for a long-term project this country, because they have the education piece, they have some multicultural aspect. Also inside India you have this, so it becomes like a good investment in terms of upskilling, because you have the loyalty of people. So I mean, no, education and multicultural aspect are not only inside the school's program, but it should be part of your experience as a learner.
Casper, really same question to you as someone who's sort of studied this.
The region has become very cool for young people. I think this is the first thing we have
That's
to...
good.
And that's a new thing. That wasn't like that 20 years ago. It has become a tourism destination, absolutely. And for people all across the world, it is a place, young people especially, go on Instagram, look what people look at. They want to work there, they want to be there. It's a phenomenon. And I think it fuses Arabic culture, Gulf culture, Western culture, Asian culture in one place. And I think that makes it a very interesting microcosm for a more integrated world. And I think that's a very attractive thing. And I think that is something I would, as a regional decision maker, leverage more. It's not something to be frightened of, it's something to embrace. because people want to come, and you can get the best people. And as you compete with other states, other nation states, you compete with Singapore, you compete with Malaysia, you compete with London, actually, especially if you're Dubai. Yeah. So, leverage the fact that people want to come, want to work there.
Well, he has sunshine. London definitely doesn't. So there's one reason to go there.
Too much.
So digital infrastructure, people, good immigration policies, but really it's all about the Instagram posts. So want to see more Instagram posts. I know we have to let you go now, Sheikh Ali. Thank you so much for your time. Casper, Christophe, Sheikh Ali, it's been great chatting with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.